Fiona Delaney.
Thank you very much. Hello, Manchester. It's really great to be here, and I'm just going to turn on my stopwatch so I don't talk too much. So yeah, really great to be here. I flew in from Dublin earlier on. Was really excited to meet all you guys and girls, of course, innovators from our neighbouring country. I had a great chat with Ian and saw some of the videos that you guys post online and everything, and I'm super stoked by the openness and the ecosystem focus of what you guys are doing here. So I'm like really excited to just be here and share some of what we're doing both in Dublin and what I do myself in my own business and my company. So a little bit of background. I'm an engineer. I'm a software developer. Usually I talk tech. I'm detail oriented. And I had to learn not to show up to things like this wearing my hoodie and, you know, smelling like last week. So I had to learn how to talk about business, you know, because for me it's real simple. Web3 is real simple, or blockchain's real simple. It's an immutable, chain-linked database where you can create, you name the value as if you're a poet, like Patrick Kavanagh. You're naming the poetry of life and you're putting it in a blockchain. Like, it's so totally amazing that you can do that. And so I really get that from the abstract point of view about data, about immutability, about the specialness of tokenization, and the opportunity that is afforded there. And a bit like the conversation earlier about early gaming, and I mean, I came across CryptoKitties pretty early, and I thought I was kind of late to the game, actually. I was like, oh damn, it's all gonna be gone. But not at all. I mean, look at today, right? Super amazing. And that is something really exciting for you, for me, for business people, and for our industry. And our industry, our society and our industry is changing. It's becoming increasingly digital. And this facility that we have afforded by blockchain and Web3 of tokenizing things, of naming value, creating value, trading value, is super, super exciting. So who are we? Who are you? We are individuals with imaginations, with amazing talents, with culture, with heritage. I'm looking at cassette tapes there, you know, looking backwards to look forwards. It's all really meaningful. And that's what we do all the time in our business constructs. The great thing we see about Web3 is its capacity to understand things like, or encompass things like game theory, privacy, scarcity, gamify those things, create value in bounded digital contexts. And all of that is really, really meaningful in the online world. But increasingly, and this is what I want to share a little bit about, is this idea of tokenizing the planet and creating that digital connection, or tokenizing that digital connection with the world around us. And how do we do that? So I think people were saying earlier on that there may be a few noobs here into the blockchain space, maybe not. I met a lot of people with a lot of experience. So this is a kind of high level look at what blockchain can offer as infrastructure. It provides transparency and trust in multi-party digital business payments and reconciliation contexts. I mean, it does lots of other things. Oh, you can kind of say it does lots of other things, but essentially for business, that's what it does. And you can have these different focuses like identity management, data provenance, governance, token and asset creation and exchange, optimization, automation, cybersecurity, and then of course we have this little spot of use cases. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. So this idea of tokenizing our world, and what does that even mean? What capabilities of blockchain or Web3 are we going to focus on? We're going to look at data provenance. So we've got on and off chain data flows. We're going to look at data trustworthiness, reputation in data. If you're gaming, it's like, who are you? Are you that great champion that you say you are? Are you the owner? Are you the, you know, what is all of that? If we're talking about being a farmer or being like a food brand, is your food healthy? Is it halal? Does it have allergens? All this kind of stuff. You can create, you can tokenize reputation or valuable aspects of process. And then, of course, we know things like verifiable Oracle services and registries. We see that most successfully probably in financial services and DeFi. But I think we can rely on the fact that there will be an expansion of that for sure. Governance. This is really interesting because when I talk to lawyers about governance, they get really annoyed with me because I start talking about things that we wouldn't see in Web3, like stakeholder reputation, roles, rights and responsibilities, voting, DAOs, peer-to-peer and virtual communities, and what does it mean to participate and take action or make a decision in that kind of context. Whereas I think, and I know there's a couple of lawyers in the room here, I think in the traditional sense, people are talking about compliance, meeting financial service compliance or data compliance, and they're looking at it from a regulated context or legal context, which is what governance means in business and society. But from a technology point of view, if you're a builder in our space, we kind of apply standards, like ERC standards, or I'm sure there's standards in Solana that are open, generated through open source, and they change and they flow and they're sort of market tested, like account abstraction. Is it being used? Has it been validated? Can we rely on it? So in technology, we use standards to validate what it is that we're doing, and we do that together. So these are really, really interesting components about what we need. So we had a great example earlier on of that lovely perfume, creating a product by committee with 30 people who've paid in. It's I say committee or community with great respect, because doing something like that and achieving that, it's always a rush to the end. Like keeping on track, it's a real achievement. And I think for any Web3 company, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your perfume out, the smell of the metaverse. So you're trying to capture it and create a value and sell it. And then we've got this real special aspect, which is tokenization, asset creation and exchange. So obviously it's about cryptocurrencies, virtual assets, fungibility, non-fungibility, exchange protocols. And we see some really, really interesting things happening in the world of standards and DeFi and blockchain, ERC standards, Algorand standards, all the different protocols, with really great ideas of how developers can work together and build on top of each other. Totally what you're doing. Absolutely copying what went before because it's familiar or because it works. And in tech, and I say that with respect. I mean, if you're a software developer, you've been trained, never bother to invent something new if there's something good enough there already. That's your job, to know what went before, right? And so that's what we're kind of learning from these different industry verticals about how to do the things that are meaningful to us. And like that imagination kind of art thing earlier on, sometimes what you're interested in is going to be death metal, psychotic art, and sometimes it's going to be something like angels or unicorns. I mean, it's just you're going to be into what you're into, right? And I think in Web3, the amazing capability we have is to create the businesses that we want, that are meaningful for us. The market will always win. We will be successful because our companies thrive or not, and that's where the answer is. So who's tokenizing the planet? And I would say it's early adoptive ecosystems. It's hardly ever just an individual. It's always groups of people. Your perfume is an exemplar of that, I would say. It's like almost like a 1, 2, 3 demonstration of what a DAO is and how it might work. But there's all kinds of different communities, like this community, the Manchester community, the community in Dublin and in Ireland. And who are we? This is a study I put a few things into our Telegram chat group and I pulled out this. 70% of the people in the startups part of the working group, of the startups and Web3 working group, have postgraduate qualifications. It could be in anything, but they're, I would say, highly qualified or pretty well qualified. 87% were either employed or overemployed. So a bit like me, I have a company, but I'm also volunteering as the co-chair of Blockchain Ireland Startups Group. So we're involved in a lot of different things, and 95% are digital, crypto digital native. I mean, somebody mentioned earlier on about who had a wallet. I'm like, only one. I've lost more wallets than most people have ever even opened. Like, I don't even know what I've got anymore. Like 4 a.m, chasing some crazy like alt token at some point in time, and I opened up a brand new wallet to do it. I have no idea where that is. I can't even remember what tokens I was chasing. But I mean, it's stuff like that, you know, because it's so much fun. And I'm not a crazy crypto head. Like I'm really not. It's just fun. We follow these projects. If you're into hackathons, you get awarded tokens. So if you're lucky, they go up a little bit, and then you start fooling around with them. I mean, it's super cool, right? So how can we tokenize the planet? I also do some work with ISO. So not only do I contribute to blockchain protocol standards, but I also make contributions to international standards. And I'm the project lead for this 24878, nothing like a good number, which is new and emerging blockchain use cases. And we're accepting submissions, actually. So if anybody would like to do that and would like to be published in an ISO report, just drop me a line. So early adoptive tokenization use cases, about 80% of them are in immutable finance, DeFi, immutable finance. People can kind of focus in on various different aspects. And we're looking at transparent liquidity, real world assets. In the DeFi space, a real world asset is something like an invoice, you know, a promise to pay. You know you're getting the money, like receivables, you know you're getting the money, and so you can raise money on the back of it. A bit like an advanced payday loan sort of thing. That's sort of what a real world asset is, or a deed to a house can be considered a real world asset. I would say maybe a collectible can be a real world asset. It's something that often exists in the real world. Like if we're talking about signatures of famous people, or a dress that Marilyn Monroe wore, or something like that. They can be real world assets that can be collateralized. We've got digital currencies, reconciliation services, payment services, identity management and security are all really important there. And then we've got this other 20% of use cases, which I was talking to Minty guys earlier on about some of this stuff. Proof of ownership, POAPs, proof of attendance, proof of authorship, maybe reputation, building reputation in the gaming world. I think that's a really important part. Collecting, staking, participating in things, in DAOs, like tracking your engagement. I think that I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, but your presentation earlier on, where you really highly prize yourself, how early you got into things. And I think that's really meaningful, like in the gaming world, even in fandoms, you know, how early you got there is like significant, right? It's a scarce thing. And you can track that, you can create value for it, and you can create meaning from that. And so all of these things all of these concepts become really, really valuable when we start to think about what can we tokenize and how can we make a business out of that. So the blue bit of the planet, the sea, the oceans. Web3 is not the first kind of interest or community interest in things like the health of the oceans, or marine life, protecting marine life, preventing overfishing, you know, maybe not setting off nuclear bombs in the ocean might be something that we might be interested in, you know, whatever. And so Greenpeace has been really active for many, like since what, the 60s or 70s, in protecting the oceans. That's not in any way connected to Web3. The one before it, or after it, has like passports, and I think this is really interesting. They created a currency for, have you ever heard of that thing where the Pacific Ocean rubbish patch? There's so much rubbish in the Pacific Ocean. These guys, starting from, it might even be from Manchester. Have you ever heard of Lad Bible? It's a magazine, right? So they started this marketing campaign where they named it the Trashy Isles and tried to get it recognized as a country because it meant that other nation states would have to pay to clean up the ocean. And it was super cheeky, like amazingly cheeky. But it was very interesting that they looked at passports, which is something a little bit like a crypto wallet. It's your identity, and money. They've beautiful artwork in this. The octopus is gorgeous. And they created this money because they felt that it was like a nation. And these are the same things that we have in crypto. And in Web3, we've got wallets, which is a little bit like a passport. It's our identity. It's disposable, can be disposable. And then we've got money, which can be worth a lot or be worth nothing. And then this one company here, Plastics, are Spanish, operationally out of Spain, but they're headquartered in Dublin. And I work with them sometimes. And they have set up a really, really interesting, they launched a utility token. There's a bit of a problem with utility tokens because they're competing in a speculative market, but they're needed for operational purpose. And so there's a tension there, like a business tension there. So be really, really smart about how you want to deploy something like a utility token. But Plastics basically tokenizes recycled plastic guarantees. And they work with really big events companies, so Barcelona FC, big music festivals, that kind of thing. Anywhere where a lot of rubbish is created, they targeted the marketing budgets because it's much easier to get a decision out of the marketing department than it is out of procurement. You were mentioning that earlier on. So they've got a really smart business model. And those guys are really worth checking out. They're very affordable and really, really credible Web3 company. Just check them out online. Land management. So this is my baby. This is what I'm in. I'm a horticulturalist on the side of being a software developer. And I own a farm, which has been carefully neglected and has been converted back to kind of wetlands and boglands. So Ireland is about a third covered in bog, which is massively successful at sequestering carbon. Ireland, you might have heard, is an agricultural nation. A lot of milk and beef. So it means that they drain the land to farm it to produce beef and milk. And these days, with European directives, the Net Zero Directive, and the global warming crisis, it is far more valuable for us, the type of land that we have, to convert it back to wetland, restored wetlands. So I'm doing that, my grandfather's farm. You can support me if you like. Just spend some ETH. Buon, I've partnered with Buon, which is an Irish company. They are very involved in the Gitcoin climate rounds and are looking to support biodiversity and regenerative practices in farmland and farm management. So that you can see the whole, the story, the biodiversity story, the quality of the land, everything like that's on their Mirror website. I also work in Spain a lot with a decentralized science collective called VINQ, which is comes from the wine industry, and supporting scientific research in collaboration with farmers who grow wine in the Catalan region. Temperatures are soaring there in the same way that we see in California. That the mountains are burning every single summer. There's a lot of damage to the soil, and they are not allowed to water their plants because there's droughts as well. So the impact of climate change is really, really visible in that part of the world. So there is a DAO. The farmers are interested. Few of them have wallets. Account abstraction is meaningful in this context. Helping on board farmer users kind of coming into the space. We have to build on mobile because they don't have time to look at computers. That's not what they're interested in. And we created an app where they could, whatever data they were finding that was meaningful, they could author it, publish it as an NFT. and we used Hyperledger Besu. So it was a private permissioned Hyperledger Fabric blockchain, but writing to a Besu client, which is on the public Ethereum network. And so yeah, they could learn things, they could earn things, you know, all the Web3 stuff, kind of gamified it. But essentially what we discovered was it has way more meaning for the scientists. Connecting the scientists who are experimenting in this space, finding these solutions, that's where we were able to create the greatest value. And so we're not in any way capturing their IP or trying to take over their discoveries. We're just helping them connect with farmers using AI tools to explain their science and do field research and feed the data back into the network, which can then be traded in terms of data sets and everything else. It's pretty young, I would say, but it's really, really meaningfully looking at tokenizing land, microbial communities, I'm a newcomer to that term, and water quality and creating impact, or at least measuring the changes that are happening in that part of the world, so that we can understand how to make a difference, basically. So we're leveraging essentially commercial extractive farming practices. Those communities, all of the co-ops in Catalonia, all of the wine co-ops have signed up to that project. Not everybody's terribly active, an awful lot of lurkers, just like any other community, but we have very, very widespread support. So yeah, and we did I did a lot of fun stuff. We did metaverse wine tasting, so you didn't get drunk at all, you didn't. It's sort of like gummy bears without any THC. It's like, it's not even that, actually. It was completely a wine. It was like a virtual wine tasting. Somebody who loves their wine and is passionate about it explained to the people in the metaverse what it would be like if they were tasting their wine. It was kind of cool. It's cool. So yeah, back to the beginning. For builders, these are the things that you need. These are the things you need to focus on. If we're going to tokenize our planet, we're talking about digital twinning. We're creating that connection between something in the real world and the process that it, like if it's land and it's farmed land, you have to capture something about that process that's meaningful, not just flag waving stuff. It's got to have meaning. And that digital twin problem is a known problem. We know it from the food supply chain. Like, how do you connect your beef or your beer to your QR code and do it securely, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got game theory and everything else. And so going to kill me because he told me not to talk for 20 minutes, and here I am 20 minutes later. So yeah, be yourself, build your business. Humanity is amazing. The planet we live on is even better than humans. And let's do something together.